Hello. Here we are.
We can hear you on.
Thank you.
I'm going to call the meeting to order and do a roll call. Ask the deputy clerk, city clerk, to take roll call, please.
Commissioner Emerson?
Present.
Commissioner Kershner?
Present.
Commissioner Momsen? Here. Commissioner Smull? Is not here. Commissioner Van Wagner?
Here.
And Chair Schlelein?
Here.
Thank you, and please let the record show that Vice Chair Knudsen is also absent.
Thank you. Now we have an approval of the agenda. Does anyone want to have any changes for the agenda? Okay, moving on, we have public comments.
Apologies, I need a motion in a second for that.
Oh, sorry. Can we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second. Commissioner Emerson?
Approve.
Commissioner Kershner?
Aye.
Commissioner Momsen?
Approve.
Commissioner Van Wagner?
Approved.
Chair Schlelein?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 502.
Thank you. Now we have public comments.
Hello.
Please state your name, where you live, and you
Sure.
have 3 minutes to talk.
Okay, I'm Jamie Love. I live here in Sonoma on Cooper Street, and I'm the artistic director of Sonoma Arts Live Theater Company. And I was asked to come and just say a few words about the Treasure Artist Award, which I won in 2023. I was very excited about that. It was one of the proudest and most surprising moments of my life. I do not curse very much, but I definitely did when I got the phone call. To have your work and all the people that help your organization survive, to get that award meant so much to not just myself, but to our whole company and to the community that helps us in what we do. We do theater year-round at the Sonoma Community Center. We rent the theater from them year-round. I would love to continue to be of use to the Cultural Fine Arts Commission, and I love the idea of us banding together. I keep thinking of those Wolverine superheroes, like cultural superheroes that, oh, you're in the arts, you do this, you're a musician, and what else could we offer the city as opposed to just 1 year, and you get that awesome party, and you get to parade around the town that you love, but I think there's more that we could do to band together. I also love the idea of creating a treasure chest or some sort of item that was passed down from treasure artist to treasure artist. So you could, say when it was me and it was theater, I could put something in there that represented what we give to our community. I like I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, the Alcaldes. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that they hand a walking stick down from person to person. It's just a beautiful gesture, and you think about all those hands that have touched that, I also want to say that I'm so happy to see the City Council taking an interest in the arts and their support of transcendence, and I really look forward to seeing how this enthusiasm and support pans out for other artistic groups in this town that could really use your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. I know we all appreciate everything you do. You've been a real treasure for the city. Any other public comments? If there are no other public comments, we will move on to the presentation of Ballot Measure T, the City of Sonoma's Transaction and Use Tax by Councilmember Sandra Lowe.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So I don't think anyone could read, I don't know, it might be on your screen, easy to read, but, oh, and you have a hard copy, perfect. So I'll refer to it. So Ballot Measure T was placed on the November ballot by the City Council with a unanimous vote of the City Council. And what it is a half-cent sales tax that will stay in the City of Sonoma for such things as this committee is concerned with, or, especially as what Jamie brought up. we have a lot of interest in the arts and in doing things that pertain to arts and to recreation, and we're pretty much stretched pretty thin about that. When I was the mayor, I had the Year of the Arts, and I came up with a brilliant idea to have this this chambers have different events and showcase art, and everyone loved it. Thought it was a really great idea, but you know what? That was a lot of work for staff to do it, and they did a magnificent job. But thank you so much for, humoring me through that year. We did a lot of things for that year, and people recognized it. I was happy to be at the honoring of when Jamie was the Treasurer of the Year. But what we're worried about is because we first, as a city, have to take care of people's safety and protection and streets, that our budget would get to the point where we'd have to start cutting things, because we can't cut safety and you can't cut fire protection. We have to make sure that all of those emergency mechanisms are in place, because your number one job is to make sure people are safe. And I think that if this week didn't show you how important it was, just turn on the news and see what happened in the eastern part of this country with all of the rescues that are going on. I mean, we're in a climate emergency predicament, and we've all lived through 2017. We know what can happen. So we have to be prepared for that. There's no option as far as that's concerned. But we don't want to get to a point where where that's all we have money for, and we can't do the exhibits here, and we can't do the farmers market, and we can't do the lighting on the plaza, or assist with everything we do, transcendence. All of that takes so much staff time, and people come to work for us, and then they find out that they're not just working for us, they're now concert promoters, or they're now museum curators. And we're pulling people to do this, and they've been fantastic at it. But really what we need is a recreation and parks district where we hire people who are specifically tasked to do those kinds of things. And honestly, every city around us has one, and we don't. And when Measure T passes, because I know it will, we'll be able to create a recreation and parks district, and we'll be able to have people whose sole job is to take care of all of those things that right now we're being stretched to our limits to take care of. And that includes the parks, where I know you want to have art in the parks and public art. I mean, that's a big deal. We're going to open a new park at the corner of 5th Street West and MacArthur, but, be great to be able to do all the things we want to do there. But all the parks and the plaza need constant maintenance. And there are 4 parks that you probably don't think of as parks that are, and that's our cemeteries. And those 4 cemeteries we have to take care of them as well. Hopefully they will start, we have someone now managing them, we'll be producing revenue as well. But right now we have volunteers out there cleaning them up on the weekends, and we love that. And volunteers are an essential part of any organization, but you also have to have people dedicated to do that. And then the volunteers supplement that, just like we have volunteers that help with the roses on the plaza, but we can't just have volunteers take care of the plaza. We have to hire people to do that. So that's what Measure T is. So let me give you some fine details, because people might say, well, we already have, sales tax in Sonoma, and it's 9 cents. It's not, and it is. Well, in Petaluma, it's 9.5. So if we raise it 0.5, we're really the same as Petaluma. We're not doing anything that's out of the realm of ordinary. And Cotati is already 9.5. And Sebastopol is on the ballot for raising theirs, and so is Napa. Why is that? Because really, that's the only avenue we have. If we could think of another way to raise the money, we would. But it has to be something that you're going to get, that you can plan on, that you can budget for, and isn't going to affect people's groceries because there's no tax on groceries, on sales tax, or medicine. And there's no tax on that. So we want to make sure that we're not harming people who, are living paycheck to paycheck, which many of us are. But we also have to provide the resources for the city. So that's sort of the fine print. How's the money going to be spent? It'll go through the city council. It'll be part of our general fund. And you guys have all seen our meetings, very transparent. We let everybody come to our budget meetings, tell us what they think we should spend it on. We have our priorities, and those priorities are what the community has told us are the priorities. This will be able to really make a difference in Sonoma. And if we don't pass it, I hate to say it, but there will be cuts. Because right now we have a sort of a flat budget. We're doing well and we're lucky. A lot of places around us are having much worse, budget problems. We've got great people in charge of the budget. We've got a wonderful city manager and amazing staff. So we're doing okay. We're going to make it. But if we want to do anything more, we're stuck. And if we aren't careful, there will be cuts. And I hate to say it, when you have to protect safety, the things that get cut are the things that everyone in this room loves the most. So we don't want that to happen. We're going to do a campaign. I'm out there. This was just the statement of facts that was mailed to everyone, and there's one in your water bill, and there's a postcard. But this weekend, I've got 20 volunteers that are going to be walking Sonoma. We've got a little card that we're going to distribute. I'm out there raising money as well so that we can print these cards and so forth, because you can't use city resources. You're not allowed to use any city resources for the campaign. So this is just a fact statement, but in order to do the campaign part, we have to raise money and do a whole separate committee. So I'm doing that, and we've got volunteers out there, and we're going to be walking this weekend. So if you're interested in helping us, let me know. Everyone knows how to reach me. If they don't, I don't know where you've been. I think everyone has my number or can find me somehow. And we'd love to have your endorsement. Thank you, Connie, for your endorsement. So that we can, spread the good word. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions. I'm sure you do.
Thank you, Sandra, and thanks for your service and for your support of the arts. It's been everything to us. It really means a lot. Commissioners, questions?
I just received my ballot last week, and I have not had a chance to read through it, but I'm just curious, could you tell us how many other initiatives are on the ballot that would raise like a bond tax or anything like that
Absolutely.
we may see on our tax bills?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. Currently, there's Measure W, which is for the libraries, which is like 0.0012 something or other. It's not a new tax. It's an extension of what is currently there. So that will not be an increase. It's simply saying that we're going to continue to use that portion of our sales tax for the libraries. And that's a county-wide thing. So it's not something that goes into Sonoma for the libraries. There is Measure I, which is a 1/4 cent sales tax in the county, which will go for child care initiatives. What we're finding is that it's hard to get people to work if they can't find a decent place for their children. And so that's a 1/4 cent. And so those two are the only two. And as I said, W is not really an increase. It's just a continuation, and it was a 1/4 cent. And then one of the reasons we put ours on is because what we don't want to happen is the county to come in. I love the county. Where are you, county? I love you. But if they put something on there, it might block us out so that we can't ever raise ours. So we're trying to get in there early so that we can keep the money in Sonoma, because we are worried, and I think it's a great question you asked, because the county could then put something on there and then say, you can't do it anymore because you've reached your limit or something like that. So anyway, so the most it would be, and then of course that would affect every city. The Measure I would be in every city. It's not just something for Sonoma. The only one that's for Sonoma is Measure T. And then everything else that's on the ballot is our statewide initiatives.
Other questions?
Just one question. You were saying Parks and Recreation District. Is that interchangeable with department, or is that something different than a Parks and Rec department? Parks and Rec District?
But Parks and Rec Department, yes. Yeah, that's an important distinction, because a district could mean like a whole entity, where you elect people and so forth. Yes, it would be a department. Thank you. Good question. You guys are good.
I think in talking to you, I realize the money goes into the general plan. So
Yeah.
your hopes are, obviously, we would love to see the arts and Parks and Rec improved and that sort of thing, but that can't be guaranteed. So I think that the takeaway there is that we need to be really proactive with our city council and also very involved in the upcoming general plan priorities that set the vision for 2045 for prioritizing. Is that a good understanding?
Absolutely. I mean, you should always be involved, whether we do this or not. I mean, you need to get out there and keep pushing us to do the right thing. I mean, I count on you to do that. But yeah, it is a general fund, and that allows us some flexibility as well. Because if something happens in case of emergency and you tie the dollars to a certain thing, you can't use them. So I think this is the best way to do it, because it guarantees that you have the flexibility in case of emergency to take care of something, but the public can weigh in and so forth, and it becomes part of our budget process. I mean, if you do, there's a lot of people who really don't like these earmarks, they call them. I know in San Francisco they go, I don't like those earmarks, because it ties your hands, and things change. If we learned nothing from COVID, things change. Who would have thought, 4 years ago that I would be taking every single meeting on a Zoom, from morning till night. I mean, no one would have planned for that. So we don't know what will happen. This gives us the ability to be flexible and to listen to the public, because the public changes their opinions as well. But at least we can build a framework that we can, build on. And right now, we can't. We're sort of limited to what we have.
I think that all of us, after being on this commission, understand a bit more of how skeletal our city staff is and how the city does need more money. And it's certainly, as an individual, not for this commission, I think that we are becoming more and more aware that we have a bottom line that we need. And so it's kind of a no-brainer in a way.
And we did a poll. We asked, the public what they thought. I mean, it was a scientific poll. It wasn't, one of those, go online kind of things. It was done by a research group. And people genuinely like the city of Sonoma. They like to, and they want to see us continue. They have trust in the people who are there. And, that's not true of other places. So we're in a good position with the public, and we wouldn't have gone forward if they said no. And so I think we're doing what we believe the public is wanting us to do, and that is to put in the groundwork for a full-fledged Recreation and Parks Department and continue advancing the arts and the parks and all of the things that make it special here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And again, you know how to reach me. Thanks.
Next item is 3.0, consent calendar. I don't believe we have anything. Is that correct? Okay. Moving on to the regular calendar, 4.0. We have a creation of an ad hoc committee to review and revise interview questions and scoring rubrics for the student creative artist application process.
Thank you. That was a mouthful, I know. Good evening, Chair Schlelein and the Commission. I'm excited to be here today. This is our only regular item today, but it's an important one, and it's an important one to bring up at this time so that we stay within a good timeline for our Student Creative Artist Award process, which begins usually at the beginning of the year. So this was a request after last year's process, which was I think very successful, but it was identified as an area of opportunity to improve, and that was specifically updating or reviewing really and updating if they feel is necessary, creating an ad hoc to really look at the interview questions that we ask all of our candidates when they are interviewing here. As a reminder, the interview process, the interview questions this year, knowing that it was going to be televised, we provided those questions to all of the applicants ahead of time so they would all have the equal opportunity to know what those are. For transparency purposes, and that will continue in the future. That will be a process that we use. So that is what the practice is, but it seemed like some of the questions, they hadn't changed. We didn't review those last year before going forward with the interviews, and that it's always just good to review the materials that you have as the program evolves. So along with that, we also have the scoring rubrics, which are optional. They aren't required for the commission to use, but help commissioners, if they choose to use them, score applicants so that they can make an informed decision and kind of have a way to compare applicants and their how they present in their work and that sort of thing. So without further ado, I think you all know what the Student Creative Artist Award is. I won't belabor it. It's all right there, but it is worth noting that this body has awarded over $50,000 to student creative artists over the years since the beginning of this program. And I do know that we happen to be in a phase of life where friends are children of this age group, and every dollar really does matter, especially if they're going on to further their education, and it's a really important program that everybody is excited to see continue. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you for more questions or comments.
Commissioners, questions, comments? Deb?
Are we in the process of trying to get another student on our panel, on our commission?
We are, and in fact, we'll give you a little update on that at the end. Thank you for asking. Yes, we will be. That's a process that all of the commissions are going through right now. So I won't steal Monique's thunder later. But also, I just wanted to note that question reminded me that also, so you know, I will be bringing an item to you that goes over the student creative artist process timeline, etc., in more detail. So I have a lot of notes from last year on ways that we can make that process go even more smoothly, and things that we learned about dates and making sure that the timeline lines up with the most appropriate time. But that will be coming at another time.
I asked that question just because I thought it would be nice if we had a student involved in this committee.
Absolutely, and I know just through the grapevine that some of the people that applied last year have applied to be our youth commissioner. So I was excited about that because they know what it feels like now, and that'll help our process. Other questions?
Yeah, Sarah, you mentioned that over the years we've awarded $50,000 to
79
To some of the-
students, yeah.
79?
A total of 79 students, yeah, since, let's see, when was it? 1988 is when it began.
Do we have any information about the success that these kids have had since they, won the award, and what kind of a path they went on to take? I'm just curious about the impact.
Yeah, worth considering. I know anecdotally, I actually do know several of them who, when I looked through, when I became the staff liaison, and I looked back at the records and went, oh, I didn't know he is. He's now he's a lawyer and he teaches law school, and I know that guy went on and he became this. Like there are a lot of those. It would be really fun
Yeah, just
to
sort of-
to learn kind of how people have gone
Research,
on
yeah,
this.
where these kids are today.
Yeah.
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 Other comments, other questions? I do believe that it would be good, it's just good educational practice for students to be able to see the rubrics that they're scored with. And so you favor the student and they know how they're going to be scored. It makes it more transparent, more fair, and they know what their target is here. So if we could refine the rubrics and then get them uploaded so that they could see them, I think that would be helpful for them.
Very manageable. We can definitely do that.
Wonderful. We definitely want this as good as we can have because it's such a fun part of what our job is, I think. And it makes us all feel pretty rewarded by doing this work. So thank you. 5.0 Commissioner reports.
So we do need to select the members of the ad hoc. Well, first vote that you'd like
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
create the ad hoc, and then select the members to serve on the ad hoc committee to review that.
Any nominations or self-nominations?
Yeah, I think you need to approve to create an ad hoc, and then we'll create the ad hoc.
Thank
Is
you,
that
Deb.
correct?
So,
We just need one motion adding the ad hoc members to the committee.
okay, so we need an approval we need a motion first to do this. So, anybody?
So moved.
Yeah, a second?
Second.
Commissioner Emerson? Commissioner Kershner?
Yes.
Commissioner Ben Wagner?
Yes.
Commissioner Momsen?
Yes.
Chair Schlelein?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 502. So now we just need the members.
Anyone want to self-nominate?
I would like to be on there.
I think that your suggestion that we maybe have the youth commissioner, we think about saving a spot for that person would be really good.
Point of order, how many can be on a committee? Is it 3? That's correct. And is that including a youth member? That would be including the youth. Okay. So we're looking for one more.
I definitely want to be on it. Thank you.
Do we know any timeline about when the youth commissioner will join us?
So I'm just going to give you the update now so you don't have to wait. So we did put out a press release asking for applications for youth commissioners because we have vacancies on a number of commissions across the city. We have received a really good amount, which is really promising. So we will be bringing those applications to the city council for them to consider on their October 14th meeting. Once, if they do happen to appoint youth commissioners, I will circle back to the commission and let you all know what has happened. Can we get one? I mean, can we have a preference or say we would like, for you to consider, or do the students have a preference as well? When they submit their applications, they do point out what commission is their preference, what their secondary is. However, all of that information is given to the city council, and it is up to the city council as a group to appoint the youth commissioner.
Thank you for clarifying that. So moving along to 5.0 commissioners' reports and comments. Can we go through each of you and maybe you could update us? Maybe Deb, do you want to start? You have anything? Morgan?
Well, you can see the new posters are in, so that's exciting. I have a question about this, even though I'm on it. Are we still in charge of it? Because I was under the impression someone else was taking over.
That is a good question, and it was part of my updates, but now I'll do it. I love being teed up. It's even better. We are having mind melds. Yes, so with the 2024-2025 budget cycle, one of the contracts that we looked at specifically with the Sonoma Community Center that provides a lot of resources for the city. They are already contracted services for our education and events. They also do a portion, help of with emergency preparedness by hosting our emergency volunteer program. We were looking to expand their contract for a number of reasons, and this was a amazing opportunity to consider looking at expanding their contract to include programming this space with the oversight of the commission, along with some other things. They'll also be taking the Earth Day photo contest will be in their hands in partnership with us, of course. They'll be taking over management of that, and in addition to that, expanding their role in our emergency preparedness, helping with courses and things like that for community preparedness. So the community center is taking that. The contracts are in process right now. These things, contracts take time to develop, and especially if you're waiting on someone to review them like me. But they are, I know, in the hands of the community center now, and we will begin discussions on transferring this over to them. So I don't have a timeline exactly because we haven't had that specific meeting, but my goal is to have them take over for the next installation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kershner?
I have an update on the Public Art Policy Committee that I've been a part of. Oh, sorry.
These are just regular commissioner reports, just informational.
I'll
We're
just give a
we're
report
almost
on
there.
my ad hoc committee when it comes to that.
Okay.
Then.
Would it be appropriate for me to talk about the utility boxes?
Utility boxes are coming up too,
Oh, they're coming.
so that item is coming.
How about salute to the arts?
Yes.
Can I talk about that?
Mhm.
Okay, so I had an interesting discovery last week. I was visiting an auto body shop, and in the lobby of this establishment, there was this beautiful poster that was celebrating the 12th annual Salute to the Arts here in Sonoma. And the last one I understand was in 1999. But what it was a festival back then that celebrated the arts from end to end. It was a very large bandwidth. It was food, it was art, it was acting, it was music. And I was just curious if anybody has any information about what went on back then, and if it was such a good thing. I think it went on for almost 20 years. Why did it end, and would we consider maybe rejuvenating such a festival?
So I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody else on the dais does, but I do know about it. It was a private, it was a event. It was organized by, I believe, now my memory, this is going back some days,
Yeah.
folks. But it was, I'm trying to remember what their comparable festival was in Napa that they also did, but it was a group that did two similar events, one in Napa and one in Sonoma, and Salute to the Arts. Summers McCann, I knew it would come to me if I just kept talking, was a public relations firm. And they were the organizers, and it had its own board of directors that produced the event, and it was very large scale. So very fancy, very high ticket price. Like there was, from my memory, they would have like large galas at like the Fairmont or Buena Vista or something like that. And then they usually did, it came also with a plaza festival of some sort. I'm not remembering exactly how it was all incorporated, if it was in businesses or if it was just kind of like a plaza, like we do have art, like fairs and that sort of thing. I can't recall all the pieces, but it was very long standing. I'm not sure why they decided not to do it anymore. And you know, we've seen a lot of things like that, with the exception of the Vintage Festival, which continues on and on and on. Things sometimes have a lifespan like that. There are certain things that just kind of they're popular for a while, and that model works really well, and then maybe your board members just kind of, it just runs its course. I don't know that that's the case with this, or someone retires, the person who was really in charge of it, or anything like that. But the city was not involved, other than maybe probably with the event permit or something like that.
So it was privately funded?
Correct.
Yeah,
It was. I think it was a for-profit event.
privately funded for-profit. Interesting.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, because it included, culinary, visual film, dancing, music. I mean, from what I've read now. to enjoy that when it was happening.
Yeah, I remember,
years
there
ago.
was a lot of I remember Suzanne Brangham, I think, was involved at one point, and there was a lot of, I have lots of memories. They always had most beautiful posters, so I can see why it stood out to you. My recollection was they
Yeah,
had some
that
really
sounded-
lovely marketing materials too, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's the extent of my knowledge right now. But I'm
thank
sure I
you.
could find out more.
Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner Emerson.
Sorry, I thought you were wanting us to comment on the ad hocs when you called on me, and I was not the appropriate person to probably give the best information. So I did have a couple of things, but I don't know if that should be in announcements. But Sonoma Clean Power is having their artist reception on Saturday, October 12th from 1 to 4. And it's a collaboration of local artists, and we've had an exhibit for the last 4 months, open to the public. So if anyone wants to come, there will be some wine and some little snacks.
Where is that?
It's at Sonoma Clean Power's headquarters, which is 431 E Street in Santa Rosa. Would welcome you all to come. There's an RSVP link. It's free to attend. We just want to get numbers, so tell your friends. And then I saw on Facebook that there's a artist walk this Thursday, so I didn't know if people knew that. And do we play any role in that ever, or is this, just curious about that?
So in my announcements, I was going to talk about Art Walk, and yes, there's a group of us that have been spearheading it, and we'll open up the Art Walk again and formally relaunch it, and it's going to start at Ola Vida this time at 5:30 on Thursday, October 3rd. The following month will be at the museum, and they're working with Music in Place for a really dynamic music event going on. And if you haven't seen the art show at the museum, it is unbelievable. They just continue to up the ante. It is a Latinx woman that is just a superstar, and so they had an opening event the other day that was way cool. So get in there and see it, and if you don't before the November meeting or November Art Walk, you'll be there. So, and then the following in December, the last one will be at Pastor, the last one of the year, but we're going to be continuing through April. We've gone back to an 8-month instead of going through the summer for Art Walk, because the farmers market really kind of keeps things going, and so it was almost competing with it. So we've decided to do an 8-month, and I'm involved in it. So as are the chamber's very instrumental in it. The community center's really organized a lot, and it's super cool. And we're talking about more pop-up music and performance kinds of things happening. We want to ramp it up a little bit and make it fun. So that's coming. Thanks for bringing that up. Music in Place has been continuing this summer, Sunday 2 to 5 music concerts, free, and building a community around art. It's wonderful. If you haven't been down there, more and more people are coming, and it's become quite a community event. And it's professional touring musicians. If you don't know the background of Music in Place, they started, it's a professional musician and entertainment group that started with the shelter in place with the pandemic. Musicians were basically starving. And so these people, these founders that we have in town, had musician friends, and they were trying to help them survive the pandemic. So they provided recording contracts and all kinds of online concert venues for them. And then once the pandemic was over, people were still nervous about going out and seeing music. And so they provided open air concerts for people all over the North Bay. The two that have stuck are Petaluma and Sonoma. So on Sunday afternoons and through the middle of October, they're continuing to do this. They pay their musicians above scale and are still looking for some sponsorship, but they have some good sponsors so far, and it's been pretty fun. And we also do announcements there for cultural events. So if you ever have something you want to publicize during the intermission, we're starting to build a little bit of, hey, this is what's happening in the arts around town. So it's been pretty fun. And then I wanted to thank Sarah and Monique for this poster show, which they hung for us, I understand. And it was a fun surprise the other day when Morgan and I walked in at a general plan meeting, or a city council, it was city council meeting. No, it's planning commission meeting. I don't know. They all run together. So, but it's a beautiful job. And it would be good at some point on an agenda to debrief what we did with the Vintage Festival posters, if we could ask to put that on the agenda. And then thanks again to Sarah for a wonderful little photo collage that she did for the Treasure Artist nomination. That was super fun to see all the history of all of these treasure artists and their pictures over the years. And so thanks for all you do to publicize that, which is coming up for us. And now we have ad hoc committee updates.
One more thing, sorry, if I may.
What's that?
I have one more thing.
Oh,
I
good.
also thought we were on 5.1 when I shared. Just so everyone knows, our latest treasure artist, Victor, is having a show with Grupo Folklorico at Sebastiani Theater this weekend. It's called Mictlan, a theatrical exploration of the Aztec legend, and he invited the students to come. So El Verano is taking all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders to Sebastiani on Thursday to see their performance. And I don't know about other schools, but so he's still out there doing great things.
Yeah, definitely. He's been a very active treasure artist. We see him in performances everywhere. Thank you for reminding me about that. Great. Okay, now we're going to go to 5.1 and 1.0 public art policy. And Lauren is one of the members of the ad hoc committee.
All right, now I'm ready for 5.1. Okay, so the last several months, it's been about 6 months, I think, since we started this. We've been hard at work updating the public art policy that was initially put in place in 2009, so it's been quite a while, and we had some significant updates that we wanted to make, that we identified. The goal is really to create a policy that integrates art into public spaces, and then fosters a community engagement, supports the local creative economy and our artists, and of course enhances the quality of life for both residents and visitors. Essentially, we envision a Sonoma that's recognized as an art destination. So, and of course a strong emphasis on transparency and equity, of course. So Connie will give a little update on the timeline, some of the temporary public art that we're working on, and Meredith is also on the committee but couldn't be here today, so I think Connie will take over for that.
Thank you, Lauren. We've met a lot on Zoom, and we've also looked at a lot of other city public art policies and been back and forth with Sarah, and she's been checking with city staff and attorneys and all those sorts of things. So the process is a little longer than we envisioned, but it's coming along, and we wanted to just give you a little bit of a heads up because hopefully this is our timeline. First, we're finalizing it, taking it to city staff to fine-tune it, and making sure that the wording is correct. In November, we hope to bring it to you for approval, and that'll be pretty happy times for us because it's kind of geeky, and and we're becoming policy experts. And then, of course, if you approve it without any changes, then we'll take it to the city council for approval after our November meeting. So our November meeting might be a little wonky because we'll be digging into it a little bit more than we're giving you today. A couple of the changes that we've done are we realized that the public art policy has no allowance for temporary art. And What that means is that things that don't last longer than 20 years, you can't include in a collection. So, and that's pretty awkward. So temporary art, here's a definition. We've added temporary art to the policy. Temporary art is artwork intended to be displayed for a limited period. Artwork that is either on loan or sponsored by an artist or an organization which retains ownership. If you've been to a number of cities like Napa, they have rotating art, that public art sculptures that are around their cities, and then it changes, but the ownership is by the artist. The artist and organization has full responsibility for maintenance, deinstallation, and site restoration on removal. And we are trying to make this whole public art policy align with the goals of the art funds that we're working on. The question of funding probably is on your mind. And there are steps that will be coming. I don't know if Sarah might mention them, but there is a fee study being done by the city, and this policy has been blended with a number of things that they're looking at to help try to figure out how to create funding mechanisms. And you also might be interested in accounting and how much we have as a commission and what's left. We're constantly kind of asking those questions. And I believe once a year we can be updated on our budget, but Sarah's probably going to go into that maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, would you like me to clarify kind of the funding basis and
That'd be
what
great.
you're hoping to recommend in the fee study and that? Okay.
Please.
Let me start a few things. So the city council that sets the budget, there's a fund that they have set apart for the public art fund. It's very specific that specifically addresses this policy. The policy is used to expend the funds in the public art fund. And they have charged you all with seeing out the policy, for coming up with the program, and then making recommendations to them on how to spend those monies. So the current balance in the public art fund currently is $44,462.68. That balance does not include the $25,000 that was authorized by City Council in this last budget cycle. So you can add that to know kind of what the balance is. This is not to be confused with the budget that is drawn upon for Cultural and Fine Arts Commission activities, or like the treasure artist reception, the student creative artist, we have a number of things that we expend funds, and they are earmarked, even though I know no one likes that term, but are earmarked specifically for this purpose. In total, those other funds are usually around $12,000 depending on the year, for the various programs and events that this body is either manages or hosts. So currently, the way the policy is written is called a funding basis. So you have a policy, and it determines explicitly how these things will be funded. So the original policy dedicates 1% of estimated construction costs of new city-owned facilities, buildings, parks, renovation projects for public art. That's anything over $250,000 in construction costs. We don't do many of those, so that's why we are funded. We don't have much funding there. That's in addition to any grants or gifts of public art that the commission may seek. And then the other source of revenue is that council sets aside 0.25% of estimated general fund expenditures up to $25,000 a year. That's what that $25,000 I mentioned earlier. Now, in times of emergency, often they will withhold that money to put towards other things, which was the case during COVID. So the fund had a very low balance until the last 2 years when City Council did allocate the $25,000. That's the limit currently. So the commission, which is in line with a lot of the other policies that we're looking at, and Vice Chair Knudsen is certainly very aware, as she's worked in other communities, that most communities their 1% of estimated construction costs are not just of city projects, but actually usually non-residential, private or public developments. So that's that's the fee. When we talk about, looking at fees, this would be considered a fee that's attached to a development. And as opposed to putting it in the public art policy update for approval that way, which if you don't, just putting it in there without the necessary study with it can be problematic. So we have a fee study coming up. And so this proposed fee will go through the fee study process. And this will be along with fees that they're looking at all of the development fees right now. And for those of you who don't know what a fee study is, and this happens certainly within governments and other entities, is most of the time we look at fees as, are they covering the costs that we need them to cover? Staff time, permits, when you pay a permit fee or a special event fee, it's all kind of wrapped up to it goes directly to what the cost of managing that product is, what a permit or whatever that is. So it will go into the fee study. There's an analysis, evaluates the cost associated with providing the service. In this case, that would be public art, to ensure that the fees, like this one, are fair and aligned with city goals. And then those fee studies, as they're studied, are presented to City Council, and City Council can approve or otherwise change different fees. And that goes for all the fees in the city, and there's a lot of them. So that will be brought to council, and council will have the option of approving that. We didn't want to wait for that process to play out before updating the art policy, because there's a number of changes that if we made them, like adding temporary art and some other tuning in there, that we could make use of the funds that we have in the public art fund that we can't currently do with the policy as it's written. So it's easily updated. Just because we're doing a policy update and it doesn't include this potential recommendation of the fee does not mean that we cannot update it immediately thereafter. Again, it's easily enough done. So we didn't want that to hold up the process anymore. But that's why we waited on that. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions on that if you'd like, if you have any.
Any questions? I think that I have a comment, which is Lauren and Meredith and I definitely have learned a lot in this long policy process, and it becomes clear that knowing our budget and knowing how much we have helps us prioritize, because I think we've been kind of steering a little blind and not knowing what we have or what is needed. We've not really done, as a commission, we haven't done a needs assessment. And as you look at how effective Napa has been in their public art policy with a very small amount of time that a visual arts program director has had, and using limited funds, but with temporary art, they've been able to really beautify their city pretty quickly without permanently doing that. And so having an understanding of our budget and having a report on the budget, and then also realizing that if we actually really wanted to do something significant, changing the fee structure so that we could access, there's very little city building, so our chances of having 1% of anything is pretty negligible. So it's hard to have much of an excitement or vision when we don't do that. So I think this will help.
And one more addition to that is the policy is written, it's not very clear because, well, first it doesn't have temporary art, but also you're not reliant on the fund necessarily to be able to do temporary art installations or that sort of thing. If somebody proposes one, say the museum wanted to do what they've done in the past where they want to have kind of an outdoor art experience and they fund it, that they are looking for approval to do that. Before it had to go through kind of an odd process of like plaza use and other things, it wasn't a very direct way to do that, that we would now be able to set up a program. The policy gets you in place and then the program is built. to serve the policy, that we would then be able to take all proposals from anybody who wish to do it with their own funding and however that comes. So it's just another avenue.
Would an example of that be those giant heads that were on the park for a while?
Those giant heads would be one of
Okay.
those. Yeah, they also had one where they had a number of, I don't know if you remember, kind of sculptures that were more realism, animals and people, and that was also part of that. Or the love sculpture was also part of that. There's a number. The paleo, there was a few of them they've done, yeah.
It's been astonishing, but our policy hasn't really helped streamline this, and so it will. We're basically modernizing, and it's exciting to do this and now really try to clear the pathways. Meredith had a report, but she has taken on the responsibilities of being the public art director for the city of Santa Rosa, and she had a meeting tonight of that commission. So she asked me to give this report because Meredith's really drilled down and taken the discussion of what temporary art is for us, because she's had a lot of experience in Napa with being successful that way. She said there's 3 types of temporary art. First is loaned artwork loaned by an artist, collector, or organization for a temporary display on city property. Good example, the museum. The second, an outdoor art exhibit, a work of art or collection that is displayed on city property sponsored or organized by a city public art program, external sponsors, or community groups, which could, I assume, be also some kind of activities or festival. And then 3, art fabricated with intention of replacement or decomposition. And that is designed to naturally decompose. It will not last over 20 years. Examples, chalk art, utility box wraps, and temporary interventions of public space. And then the 4th point she wanted to make is to apply for placing temporary art, you must provide visual documentation, location approval, installation details, and a considerable lender's agreement, which is who's responsible for costs, risks, liability, site restoration, educational labels, and the removal of artwork. So that is our report. Do you have questions about what we've done, or thoughts or advice?
I have a quick question for staff. Will the other commission members receive the policy before we meet at the next meeting, so they have time to review it?
It'll be part of the agenda packet for review. That's the public process that goes through, so they get it the same time the public does. So hot off the press, I'll make sure that everybody gets to review it before the next meeting. The next meeting is on the 19th of November.
That was my question too. Thank you. I actually have 2 holds on my calendar. I have the 19th and the 21st. So is it only the 19th?
It's only the 19th that I have. I'm trying to think what we had the 21st on there for. I don't know. It's a private meeting, though. I guess. No, it's the 19th is the time frame that I have, but I'll double check on that to make sure that we didn't place a odd calendar invite or something that happens on occasion.
Other thoughts, advice we could? Sure.
Does the current status of the interpretation of public temporary art, does the way that it's written into the policy today preclude us from implementing the initiative that we have going for the utility wrap?
In our committee, we were concerned about the fact that we didn't have this. We thought we did when we first started into it. We thought we were probably needing to modernize a little bit, but we realized it's completely missing. And so it kind of shocked us, but I don't know.
So Scott, we were looking at alternate ways because the policy as written did not, well, it didn't allow us to use a public art funds for projects that of a temporary nature. The utility box project would be included in that. It just so happens because as I was looking at the utility box project, for example, that involves a lot more things of encroachment permits, and the costs were going to be greater than just the art wrap itself. And I was looking at kind of staff needs and whatnot. It was becoming a little bit bigger. This will, if it dovetails, we may actually be able to use the policy, the update, to help flesh out what the program is, using the utility project as maybe one of our first opportunities. But it became up in the budget. I can kind of talk to you. Pardon me, I'm tripping over my tongue here. I need to update the ad hoc on what I've learned about the utility wrap project. As you know, you all worked on a great call for art, some artists, and we intend on using that, but it's been delayed just because of some of the budgetary processes and things that were going on.
But there is a workaround, you think?
We were intending to do it. It is kind of like I mentioned with the Museum of Art, how it didn't fit into our policy, but there were other avenues that we took. It's just more laborious, a little less clear, and it kind of comes through in a different way. So it's not as clean as hopefully it will be when we have the policy. Then we'll really have a way to work for it in a framework, and then we can build out a program, and it won't be like, do we have to do this, and how do we go over here? So I wouldn't call it a workaround, but there is a way through. It's just not direct.
So if there's no questions on the public art policy, maybe we could move into 5.2, which is utility box, ad hoc committee report.
Okay, well, the last meeting that Deb and Meredith and I had, we pretty much outlined the next steps, which are pretty simple. We wanted to create a draft to review and for the council, and then move on and select 2 artists to be on the panel that would select the art from the call for art that we would have in Sonoma Valley. But I guess it kind of hit the brakes when, we didn't get the go-ahead, because I guess that it's considered temporary. So we're in an impasse at the moment until...
It really was just a capacity issue. There were a few extra projects that came up over the summer, as sometimes it happens. And it just got a little bit, it just didn't get the attention that it needed. So it was probably, if I had a little bit more hours in the day, might have been able to get through. So I apologize.
Right, so
it's
there's
just
still
been,
hope
it was
then.
just a capacity issue. Yeah, we had intended on continuing it. We were not waiting on anything for the policy to update to happen to do it. It just hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Anything else? I have a comment about it. I was in Salt Lake recently and saw their utility box wrapping. Many towns have them now. And it was a little charming, some of them, because around town, different schools had adopted a utility box. And I thought that was kind of cool. And while a couple of our schools aren't in the city limits, a number of them are. And it would be interesting to see if you would consider that.
I think that sounds great. I know we're somewhat struggling with who actually owns the boxes and who can tell us what we can do and what we can't do. And I know that I think Meredith was working with you to try to identify the specific boxes so we could figure out which ones were owned by PG&E, which is somewhat problematic. And if there are other owners, though, that would be good to know.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts? So it sounds like the ad hoc is continuing to work on it and trying to get over some of the obstacles in terms of timeline.
That's my understanding. So I know it's been a little bit of a pause, but I think that the groundwork has been laid. It's just a matter of finding a time to follow through and get it on agendas and find the pathway.
Thank you.
Has the estimate that we've provided, the $8,000 estimate for implementing the project, has that been received positively, or have you
I
had
don't think
any indication from?
I don't think anybody was scared by it, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. I don't think that it was. I don't recall that being an issue. Like, whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Or anything like. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
But the questions I have now is because it's most of the boxes are along Highway 12. Which is also known as Broadway, and Napa Street, which that requires certain kinds of encroachment permits and other types of work to be done, and that's the portion that I'm having to learn on the staff side. So I have a lot of good support. It's just been a little busy. We have Public Works. This is infrastructure repair and replace season. That's when the time they can do it, when it's not raining. So I have to kind of just wait my turn. To get all the information I need. But that's really kind of the questions I have before we move forward, so that we can make sure that we have a full program and we have thought through everything before it comes before anybody to consider.
Good.
Thank you, Sarah. Rotating City Council Chambers art program, we've pretty well covered it, haven't we?
From my perspective, unless there's anybody else other than to say, magnetic push pins, you guys, they're miracles. I'm just going to put a plug out there. I don't know, buy stock. I'll show you them up close later. It was something new for me, but it was recommended by someone who does installations, and it really helped out. So just in case you're wondering, it was fun to do.
Is that what's up there right
It
now?
is. It does not put holes in the art.
Oh, okay. Just have to check it out. Thank you.
Pretty wonderful discovery. I did have one update on the public art policy that I forgot. On the wall back here, there's a map. And Meredith and I have been walking the city looking for locations. If we get our temporary public art policy and could perhaps install plinths or bases that we could rotate art through, bike paths, parkways, entryways, all that sort of thing. We've been mapping the city for public art for prime locations. In the process, we've run into the Garden Club, who was actually doing the same thing. And they were looking for tree cover and good places to plant trees and to beautify the city through gardens and beautification and green link, what is called green link pathways. In fact, they're called in Montreal and a number of other cities, they're called green necklaces. And they surround the city and actually attach all of the pathways, bike pathways, walkways, shortcuts that we all take, and safe areas to go around and across important roads. These all become connected. So we have been, we have each, the Garden Club chair and also Parks and Rec chair, and I have been attending different commission meetings, Parks and Rec, Planning Commission, really looking at trying to connect these maps so that we could have a grid that went across the city. And so when they did infill, they would be very thoughtful and aware of these pathways, much like across from Whole Foods as you go by Best Western. There's some murals there, and you go across from 2nd Street West to 1st Street West. pathways like that could actually be throughout the city if we plan those things. So the commissions are starting to converge. And I would invite my fellow commissioners to attend some of the other commissions because we're actually looking at this as part of the public art policy. So that was an important point I forgot. Thank you. And now we have city staff comments and announcements.
The only other item I wanted to bring to this commission was just giving you some information about the formal minutes of your meetings. And I know I haven't brought the minutes to you yet, but I did want to give you some information on minutes in general. Our California Government Code requires the city clerk to maintain minutes, which are prepared by the clerk of that meeting and approved by the local body before becoming the official records of this meeting. There are 3 different types of meeting minutes that can be taken. There are verbatim, which are word for word minutes. There are action minutes, which are just capturing the decisions and actions taken by the body. And then there's summary minutes, which is a good middle ground. It captures just a brief record of the discussions had and the actions taken by you as the body. In 2018, the Sonoma City Council adopted action minutes as across the board for City Council and the commissions. Due to, at that time, the city implemented the video recordings. So now all of the meetings are recorded. They are available and accessible to the public 24/7 on Civic Web. And as a result, the summary and verbatim minutes are just too lengthy and really not needed. So we only do action minutes. I just, again, wanted to give that information to you. I do sincerely apologize. I have not brought the minutes to you. I will be bringing the minutes to you at your November meeting for review. And again, I apologize that it's taken me so long.
Thank you. So at our November meeting, will we select the treasure artist?
That is what the timeline is scheduled for. So yeah, that will be a good, productive, important meeting. Last meeting of the year. I think we also set our calendar for the year ahead. So we'll go out with a bang, as I like to say. And rolling right in, I have just a couple of updates for you. First, a reminder, so the exhibit that we've discussed today, which is the 2023 and 2024 Vintage Festival Poster Contest entries, are all on display currently in council chambers, and we will be hosting an artist reception on Friday, October 18th from 4 to 6 p.m. So that will be fun. We invite you all to come, and everybody has been invited who entered. All the contestants have received invitations, and city council and the like there. Looks like, Scott, did you have a question? Right here in this very room. Will be transformed into... Oh, really? Oh, I'm not sure. They're having another exhibit. Oh, well, very good to know. I'm glad it's in the air, I guess. It is harvest season after all. Along that note, we are still accepting treasure artist nominations. We are accepting nominations through October 31st. So we received 9 nominations so far for 4 different nominees. So that means several people nominated the same artist. So encourage anybody. I have flyers here that I'm going to require everybody to take, at least 3, and put them up around town at your various entities, and encourage people to put in a nomination, as those are always, as you know, a fun time to do it. So I'm excited to see what comes through there. I also have flyers for the artist reception if anybody wants those. I appreciate you all helping me with that distribution. Just some city side, I'll put on my other hats. City Hall's front counter, many of you know if you visit City Hall, our hours we typically have closed between the lunch hour, between noon and 1. And we are now going to be open through the lunch hour. So the front desk, I know, it feels like a big change. I don't know why. So we will be open Monday, Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at City Hall, the front counter. There will always be someone staffed there ready to help you in whatever way you need that. And then, of course, we're always open by appointment on Fridays if you ever need to do business. You just need to contact the person you have business with and arrange an appointment for that. Other business, there is, Connie mentioned that she's been attending general plan meetings, and there is a general plan study session coming up. It's a special meeting for the city council on October 14th. This is a special meeting before their regular meeting. So the special meeting starts at 2 p.m. and then they have a regular meeting at 6 p.m. as well. But this will be the study sessions are, of course, a really great way to understand where they are in the process of the update. I believe this has, there's a big focus on land use in this one, but I know some of you are following the general plan discussions, and I know there's a lot of interest from this body in participating, so I want to make sure you have that. Then if you haven't noticed, it's a little warm out there right now. Putting on my other hat, I also have an emphasis on emergency preparedness and response for the city. So we are under a heat advisory until 11 p.m. tomorrow. We're fortunate in our little microclimate here in the city itself that we did not get into a higher tier of a warning, heat warning, which would have escalated our concern for public health and safety. But we still encourage people who are maybe don't have adequate air conditioning at home, or maybe have some special needs or are vulnerable in other ways, that the library is open until 8 o'clock, and that is our both now unofficial and official cooling center. So please use that wonderful resource. It's a wonderful place to be anyway, but if people are in need, the library is open. Also wanted to mention the cemeteries came up earlier in discussion, and we've created a brochure for our cemeteries. If you're not aware, the city does have and maintain 3 cemeteries. Some people consider 4 cemeteries because we have a section in the mountain cemetery just beyond here. That is, we call it the historic grounds, with some really notable figures who have been laid to rest there. We are working on expansion projects in a number of our cemeteries. There's a very strong belief that if somebody wishes to be laid to rest in Sonoma, that we want to make sure that there's a place to do that. So take those along with you, and there are a couple of work days coming up if you're itching to get out there and help maintain them. We just had one at Valley Cemetery on the 21st, which was really wonderful. I think they filled 2 dumpsters full of pine needles. It's significant. And not quite as much, I think, in the next one, so I don't want to scare you off. But there is a work day at Mountain Cemetery on October 26th, and another one at Veterans on November 9th. Those are both from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. There's a way you can register on our website, sonomacity.org. And that is all I have for you, except with my last emergency response. I'm always trying to get everybody excited to prepare yourself at home. The city of Sonoma has pre-planned evacuation zones in the case of a mass evacuation. They coincide with the county. County also has a system. So if you go to the county's website, which we do have information for on our website, you can, if you don't live in city limits, find out where your zone is. And also if you work in a different zone than you live in, also good to know. But this is just, has certainly the map on the front of the city, but on the back is a checklist. So this time of year, especially in October, for us, that tends to be one of our more active fire seasons, times for fire season, though we've been very fortunate this year, but has a lot of good information on, like, if you only have an hour, if you're asked to evacuate, or if you have or more time, to make sure that everybody has those items prepared, because I know the more prepared our residents and people are to react in times of emergency, and to also manage for themselves, have the things on hand to be able to take care of yourself for a few days, really takes the pressure off of our first responders, who can then attend to kind of other serious needs. So appreciate you listening to my PSA there. And other than that, as I mentioned, our next meeting is next November, next month, on the 19th. And yes, it looks like Deb might have a question.
Could you tell us the next 3 meetings? Have we scheduled that far out?
We will not have those, because at your November 19th meeting, you will be setting the calendar for the entire year next year. So that is probably why they're not on your calendar. So the last meeting of the year, we typically set the calendar for the next year.
I'd also like to mention with the general plan study session 2 to 4, that's hard for people to get to, but there is a place for comments on the city website for that. And I would like to encourage everyone out there and also the fellow commissioners to have people step forward and comment on the importance of the arts and culture and a vision for 2045 of our city. And this is where the clock's ticking now. We need to be rallying the troops and making sure that the arts are supported in the general plan. Do you have that information website?
It's on our website, sonomacity.org. It's not that close yet, but if you go to the calendar, it may come up with some old study sessions too, but it will definitely come up with this one.
Thank you. I think we're adjourned.